This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Tough Mudder Phoenix is around the corner. Then there's a couple of weeks off, and then Toughest Mudder Atlanta is coming up. This season has been kind of slow so far. We've only had 2 events, although one of them was a big one in LA. This weekend is the 3rd event in Arizona, and then it's another break before Atlanta. But after Atlanta, everything picks up for the rest of the year until November at World's Toughest Mudder. In fact, at the end of May, there's actually one weekend where Tough Mudder is going to have 4 separate events on 4 different continents on the same day, on Saturday and then again on Sunday. There is a Tough Mudder in Philly with Toughest. There is a Tough Mudder in Queensland, Australia. There's a Tough Mudder in England. And then there's a Tough Mudder in Shanghai also, all on the same day at the end of May. So if you are going to one of those international, one of those non-US Tough Mudders, shoot me an email. I would love to talk to you about that. willhicks@gmail.com. On today's show, Cassie Harris is going to talk to us about her story and how Tough Mudder has helped her through it. And then she's also going to break down the Tough Mudder Arizona course for us. She lives in Phoenix. Tough Mudder Arizona is her home course. So she's going to break it down for us, explain what to expect and how to conquer the obstacles you'll see out there. Also, before we talk to Cassie, I have 3 Tough Mudder news items that kind of happened in the last week or so. But before that, I need to apologize to Canada. I just found out that Canada and every other country has their own iTunes store with their own iTunes podcast section and their own iTunes reviews. And there were 2 reviews from Canada sitting up there, totally ignored by me, and I didn't even know about that. So Canada, I'm sorry. Here are those 2 reviews. The first one's by Charita. Keeping it real, 5 stars. As someone who aspires to run her first World's Toughest Mudder, I'm looking to learn as much as I can. Having this podcast and being able to hear the triumphs and failures of those that have participated in this epic event. Kudos for putting this out there and keeping it honest and informative. And then Randy Chin 17, hashtag keep grinding, 5 stars. Thanks for these podcasts. Looking forward to my first WTM. I am loving how helpful the community is. See everyone in Las Vegas. Randy, I will see you in Las Vegas. Thanks for the review, and thanks for the kind words. That's a pretty common theme that you'll hear people say about Tough Mudder. One of the great things about Tough Mudder is the community, or the best thing about World's Toughest Mudder is the community. The best thing about World's Toughest Mudder is actually the sweet bibs, but the community is a close second. Anyway, you 2 guys, thank you for the reviews. If you would like to leave a review, go to iTunes, search for Tough Mudder. We're the first podcast that pops up. Click on ratings and reviews, and then write a review. I would love to read it on a future episode. All right, Tough Mudder news. Here's 3 things that happened this past week. First, Tough Mudder teased another new event debuting this year. They're saying it's going to be the roughest event on the planet.
Since the dawn of time, Tough Mudder has brought you the most epic events on the planet. Mini Mudder, Tough Mudder Half, Tough Mudder, Tougher Mudder, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder. Now, just when you thought we'd come up with every possible idea in the universe, we're unleashing the roughest event on the planet. Coming 2017. Are you ready?
And then the next day, they released the announcement video for this new rough event.
Just when you thought we'd finally reached the pinnacle of tough, just when you thought the bar couldn't be raised any higher, we're unleashing the cutest event on the planet. Prepare yourself for Puppy Mudder. It doesn't get any tougher than this. 6 incredible obstacles, 1 adorably epic experience. Watch in awe as this elite crew of rough runners take on the toughest obstacle course known to canine kind. And they'll look cute as doing it. They'll run, they'll jump, they'll sniff and claw their way to the finish, using teamwork and camaraderie, leaving no puppy behind. We've teamed up with Nulo to unleash the most epic event ever conceived. Fuel your puppy's inner athlete and get ready for an epic season of events.
And obviously, it was Tough Mudder's annual April Fool's joke. I had people emailing me upset about Puppy Mudder. What is Tough Mudder thinking? This is a terrible idea. People aren't going to want to electrocute their dogs. And you're right. People are not going to want to electrocute their dogs. But it's okay. It's not real. And it's actually pretty adorable, too. You should go to Tough Mudder's YouTube page and watch the video. The event is fake, but the sponsorship is real. A company called Nulo makes dog food and is sponsoring Tough Mudder this year. So if you've been in the Tough Mudder community for very long, as soon as you saw Puppy Mudder, you thought of Tough Mudder's other April Fool's joke a couple years ago.
I'm Will Dean, I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Tough Mudder, and we are launching Baby Mudder because I believe the youth of today need toughening up. Kids need ice baths and electric shocks. We've been conducting a lot of customer research, we've got a lot of customer insights, and I am worried about the youth of today.
Where you bring a baby to a Baby Mudder, they learn how to work as a team. These children got a little weak. These generations of children are a little bit weaker than normal now.
Babies need to do obstacle courses to build their gross motor skills, to toughen them up. She just needs to, toughen up, right? Toughen up. Can you say toughen up?
We learn about teamwork, and we learn about camaraderie, we learn about self-sacrifice, and we understand that there has to be a little bit of pain to have gain in life. I think that's an important thing.
That buzzing at the end of the clip there is a baby getting a Tough Mudder tattoo. And much like Puppy Mudder, it's super cute. The audio does not do it justice. Tough Mudder actually does a April Fool's thing every year, but Baby Mudder and Puppy Mudder are by far the two most memorable ones they've done. Second bit of news is that friends of the show, Carlo Piscatello and Josh Cox, released a new episode of their show this week. The new episode of Piss and Cox, parentheses, it's not offensive because it's their names, focused on PJ Catalano.
I had a revelation about PJ this weekend.
You told me this, and you left me hanging.
PJ is a real-life human puppy. Think about it. There's a couple things. One, he's adorable, right?
That's very true.
And then
no one can argue that.
So picture a little PJ running around. He's probably adorable.
Oh my God!
And now
I've never thought of that.
he goes up and you go.
I just fell in love with PJ.
And you go, who's a handsome boy? Because he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
Who's a handsome boy?
And with his surfer voice, just me.
Yeah.
Me.
And when you talk to him, you go like, PJ, what lap you on?
Three, bro.
Three, bro. Right. So he's confused like a puppy, and he's always running around with all the energy on course. And then you'll look for him in the little festival area afterwards. Like, where's PJ? You look over at the table, and just like a puppy, he's in the corner.
Yeah. Like,
Figuring it out.
he's tuckered out.
But then you wake him up, and you're like, who wants a treat? You want to get a treat? And then he's gone with you. You're off to get a treat.
I've never thought about it
I know.
this way.
I thought about it too much this week.
In addition to PJ Catalano news, Josh and Carlo also talked about Toughest Mudder LA. They were both out there. Carlo actually ran Tougher on Saturday morning before he ran Toughest Saturday night. One of the things they talked about with Toughest Mudder LA was the Arctic enema they had out there.
That Arctic enema killed me.
Dude.
Like my head, I have never had that kind of the brain freeze from that obstacle.
Completely agree. You know, it didn't help that
my
it was
God.
5 a.m. and like from the jump, I'm like, I do not want to do Arctic enema so bad right now. From the very beginning.
And that
I'm
was
like,
the opposite. I thought, I did it earlier today. Get down, get under, get out.
Right. Which I understand that. And I
But
was
it was 10 a.m. and it was 70 degrees.
Right. A little bit better scenario. We get there and I'm like, oh, thank God. Now, here's the thing that was so ominous. We're at the top and we see Colleen go in first. As soon as she sinks into the water, a hole opens up where the ice was, right? Mm-hmm. All of the ice immediately within 3 seconds just goes...
Envelops her. She's gone forever.
Yeah, and we're like... No.
Where'd she go?
Dude, yeah, and getting in and out of there, it was just like...
No, it hurt.
hurt bad.
So-
and I'm like, hills, give me more hills.
Yeah.
Give me more hills. Come
Yeah.
on, make me climb.
Like I was like holding my head like it shrunk like 5 sizes or something. I was just like,
Yeah, which it can stand to do.
I know it's a bit of a
Yeah,
it's the
it's a
Episcopello
doozy.
noggin.
Josh and I talked about this when he was on the show a few episodes ago, but I want to say it again. That was the coldest Arctic enema I have ever been in, by far. It threw off my internal balance for like half a mile after the obstacle. I was staggering like a drunk sailor. I couldn't walk in a straight line. It was insane. I don't know if that was just a we got lucky thing, or if they're going to actually, turn the cold up to 11 for all the toughest events going forward. But whatever it was cold, cold, cold. If you're in Northern California and need a personal trainer, Josh Cox is a trainer. He talked about a new area of training he's looking at expanding his business into.
The thing that I have, a leg up, if you will,
Tell me.
is I am willing to be your poop coach.
I didn't know where this was going.
Yeah.
But that is not at all.
Where you thought?
Nope.
Well, guess what? I am very regular. I have my pooping
discussed.
down to a science.
We've discussed that.
Right. And in talking with Trevor, I was sharing my regularity and my fondness for my regularity and, the pride that I share with it. And he's like, it's a bad race if you have to poop during it. You didn't time your nutrition out right. And
He's
I'm
right.
like, he's not wrong. He nailed it.
Solidarity. Get it?
Yeah. I am offering to coach you if you need bowel movement tips. So
Or lack of movement.
yeah, lack of. I will teach you how to poo.
If you are interested in Josh Cox's poop coaching services, please contact him at carlopiscatello1@gmail.com. Last clip from the Piz and Cox show is Carlo talking about the amazing comeback Ryan Atkins made to win first place last weekend.
They call him human, but his name is Ryan Atkins. Ryan was, with like a lap and a half or so to go, was literally like 15 plus minutes behind Chad Trammell. And I know this because we were over taking the penalty for Operation, which was the surprise obstacle, to which I was like, surprise, I'm not doing it.
Walk around.
Surprise.
There we go.
Sandbag lap. And Chad Trammell, like on the backside there, on the second lap, like where that amphitheater and stuff is, he, of course, went flying by us, but he's a really nice guy. And I was like, hey, great going, Chad. He's like, hey, thank you so much. Thanks. Really cool dude. He shoots by us doing what I would consider a faster than my sprint lap, right?
Right. And it's his 50th mile.
Yes. Or 46th, whatever it was.
What a shit.
And I'm like, wow. You finish that, you go down to that creek, the ankle-breaking creek bed. Then you got to turn and go up Matterhorn, which is like nothing but solid rock. At that point, Ryan comes running by, charging, right? And he gets about 15 yards ahead, and he turns and he's like, hey, how far ahead is Chad? And I was like, oh, dude, I don't know. And I thought about it later after he disappeared. I was like, I didn't know, because Chad had passed so long ago, I kind of forgot that he even passed us. And then I was like, Chad's got like a huge lead. I'm glad I didn't actually know, because I would have been like, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. But then we got to the top of the hill. Atkins was like a mile that way. Like he had gone down, around, up. And dude, do you think he's going to catch him? And we were like, it didn't seem physically possible that Ryan Atkins could have caught Chad Trammell.
But how did the race end up?
Not only did Ryan Atkins win, he won by like 10 minutes or something. There was a 25-minute closure in like 7.5 miles.
It really was a remarkable comeback. When the Toughest Mudder shows start airing this summer, it'll be fun to watch and see what, you can only see so much when you're on the course or when you're in the pit area, so it'll be fun to see what the cameras caught that we did not see out there. Those are obviously just little clips from the new episode of Piz and Cox. You should go to YouTube and look for Obstacle Racing Media's YouTube page to see the whole episode. It is 35 minutes long. Plenty of Carlo and Josh shenanigans. It's a good episode. Also this week, last bit of news before we talk to Cassie, Matt B. Davis on the Obstacle Racing Media podcast interviewed Ryan Atkins and talked to him about Toughest Mudder LA. Here's a couple clips from that episode. Again, you should check out the whole episode of Matt and Ryan talking. You can find that by looking for Obstacle Racing Media on iTunes. Matt asked Ryan how he was able to pull off the comeback.
The first half of the course was hilly. Like the first mile and a half of the first 5 mile loop which we ran for the first 4 hours, was hilly. But then the second 5 mile loop was like super hilly and like steep hills. So like when the wheels fall off on that kind of terrain, they really come off because you're just relegated to walking. But yeah, Chad was rocking it, and I was racing really hard because I wanted to like catch him, and I was feeling pretty good. But he just like, it was like lap after lap, I was just getting like a minute or two here and there, you know? And it was kind of disheartening because I'd like put in this massive effort, and I'd be like, all right, he's got to be like a minute ahead of me. And they'd be like, I'd come through the pits, and they'd be like, he's 20 minutes ahead. And I'd be like, dang. And then that like repeated itself. And then I just kind of made myself like this little mini goal. I was like, okay, I want to run like the last lap in, you know, around 45 minutes. I think it ended up being 48 or so, but that was my new goal. It wasn't really to catch Chad anymore, because like you don't really know how fast he's going. But that was my new goal, just to like absolutely smash the last lap. And it was a crazy effort, but I did it. And then yeah, I caught him with about 1.5 miles to go, maybe, on one of the long climbs.
Matt asked Ryan how long it took to run each 5 mile loop.
I think the first lap without any obstacles was 39 minutes. And then after that, they were all sitting, like for the first 5 mile loop, they were all sitting around like 46, 47 minutes. And that lap was definitely easier. And then the second lap, so I did 6 laps on the first 5 mile loop and 4 on the second 5 mile loop. And the second 5 mile loop, I think my splits were around 55 to 58 minutes. And then my last lap was like 48.
Matt asked Ryan if he planned to do all 6 of the toughest Mudder races.
I'm going to do them. Well, my plan right now is to do them all except the UK one, but we'll see.
Matt asked Ryan if he was planning to run a tougher Mudder this year, the 10-mile competitive version of Tough Mudder.
I think so. That'd be cool. Well, I kind of have to, because I made this like Grail thing. So you know, it'd be silly not to go for the Holy Grail just because the name is so cool.
Right.
Like, who doesn't want the Holy Grail? Yeah, and I mean, there's a Tough Mudder in Toronto that would be sweet to do, and do the tougher Mudder there, and I'm sure something will work into my schedule nicely.
The elites, they're just like us. The last clip, and this is actually my favorite part of the entire episode with Matt B. Davis and Ryan on the ORM podcast. Ryan talked about how the 8-hour toughest Mudder embodies everything he loves about obstacle course racing.
To me, like, it was like this really cool, like, kind of rebirth of OCR. And like, because when I started racing OCRs, it was like, and the reason why a lot of people get into them is they're like these epic things, and you show up and it's like this crazy hard course, and you don't know if you're going to come out the other side of it, but then you do it, and it's really, really hard, and then you get this awesome sense of accomplishment from it. But it feels like to me that like in the last few years, stuff has just been getting like easier and easier, and like, you know, they want to make it more approachable, and they like have the sprints, and like it seems like all the Spartan races have gotten easier. Like the Spartan World Champs is like gotten so easy now that it's just like a freaking track race almost. And so it was like this toughest Mudder was like the total opposite of that, and it was like just so cool and hard, and it really was like a race of attrition where you were just grinding it out there. And like, to me, those are the best kinds of races, and I'm just like super jazzed about it right now. So it was really cool to be a part of, and I hope more people like come out, because if you're looking for like that next challenge, it's really good. It's great. And with the 8-hour length, you can push yourself a lot harder, so it becomes like a totally different different thing than like World's Toughest, where it's more of like a grind. Like 8 hours, you can still go for 8 hours.
And again, that was Matt B. Davis interviewing Ryan Atkins on the ORM podcast. Go check out the whole thing. It's very good. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that they talk about that we didn't talk about here. There's a Lindsay Webster cameo, Canadian dollar exchange rates. Matt and Ryan talk about starting their own weekly OCR show. Ryan gives his thoughts on what Tough Mudder should do to make the other toughest courses harder, because they're not going to have the elevation that Los Angeles had. Ryan gives his thoughts on, does he think Battle Frog is going to come back? Spoiler, they're not. They also talk about the USA OCR National Certifying Agency. They talk about that for a good bit, actually, and it's really interesting to hear Matt's thoughts and Ryan's thoughts on the situations. So if that's something you're interested in, you should check that out. Matt B. Davis, ORM podcast. Well done, Matthew. Cassie Harris is our guest this week. She is an active voice in the world's toughest mudder community, and she is a cancer survivor. She and I talk about that, and she talks about how the world's toughest community rallied around her when she needed them most, people flying in just to hold her hand. She tells a great story about Sean Corvell that I don't want to spoil here. She's also a resident of Phoenix, Arizona, and so she's real familiar with the event location this weekend. She and I spent some time talking through what people can expect on the course. Let's talk to Cassie Harris. Cassie Harris, tell me about your first World's Toughest Mudder.
My first World's Toughest Mudder. Like most, I came horribly unprepared and didn't finish. I'm an Arizona girl, and it ended up being in New Jersey that year, and it was freezing. I just remember absolutely freezing to the point where my body decided that it just didn't want to function anymore. And I remember coming into the pit, and people had taken off their wetsuit at some point, and some of them had laid them over tents or next to their tents, and they were frozen solid. So I actually didn't feel too bad about not finishing my very first World's Toughest Mudder because of that. I know a lot of people ended up not finishing that year. I think even Amelia Boone didn't finish that year, but I'll have to check.
Which year?
Either way.
What year was this?
It was 2013.
The last year in New Jersey.
The last year in New Jersey, yeah.
That's true. How many miles did you get?
I only did one lap. I got 10.
And it was pretty brutal.
It was brutal, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I had absolutely no idea. I had only run 2 Tough Mudders at the time. My second one qualified me, and I just kind of jumped on it and decided to go out there and have fun, and it was absolutely miserable.
Did you go by yourself, or did you bring some friends with you?
Nope, went by myself. I met people there that I was friends with, so that was great, but it wasn't, the community was kind of just starting off, and I didn't know what it was at the time, so for me, it was more of just trying to go and challenge myself to do something I had never done, at a time where I really needed to do that, to push myself and kind of let myself know that I was capable of doing something way outside of my comfort zone. So I didn't even then I didn't know what the community was. So I went out there as a lone wolf and ended up still falling in love with all the people.
Why did you feel like you needed to challenge yourself at that point in time?
I have a reoccurring diagnosis of cancer. I carry the BRCA1 mutation in my genes, which makes me more prone to cancer because my body doesn't have the protein to fight tumors. In 2012, I was diagnosed, and it was my 3rd diagnosis, and the closest I really ever came to feeling like I was going to succumb to my disease. So my way of moving outside of it once I had started to feel better was to kind of heal myself mentally and physically. And the best way to do that is to push yourself outside of your mental comfort zone.
So World's Toughest for you wasn't so much a physical thing, it was a mental challenge?
It was a mental thing. It was kind of me just putting myself out there and saying, you can do this, as weird and cliche as that sounds. But yeah, it's kind of what I needed, a little push to pull myself out of this kind of depressive state that I had fallen into.
How many times have you done World's Toughest?
I've done it twice that I've gotten to participate. One time I actually just came to watch because I was too sick to participate, and that was the first year that it was in Las Vegas for the sandstorm. Mm-hmm. And then last year, I was pit crew for the first time ever, which was such just an incredible experience being on the other side of the bib, being in a blue bib instead of a white one, and just feeling the community and the camaraderie that way. It was absolutely life-changing.
Who did you pit for?
I pit for Four Eyes and Maddie Gregg, which was just a wonderful experience.
I think we saw you on the TV show a couple times, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was awesome. It was a little rough because they came out to film when all of the kind of social events were going on. So we missed, the community dinners and stuff. But the experience was absolutely amazing, and I loved the way that they kind of chose to tell the story up into World's Toughest Mudder. So it was a really cool experience.
The first time I saw you was in 2015. You were on stage at the brunch, the post-race brunch.
Yes.
What's happened since then in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so that year was pretty heartbreaking for me. I had spent all year training for World's Toughest Mudder. It was my motivation. The people in the community had just kind of taken me into their arms, and I had found family, which is something you hear so often in the community, is these people are just so amazing. But I had gotten really involved and had trained up so hard. And then shortly before Worlds, another diagnosis came through. So I had to back out of Worlds shortly beforehand because I had already started radiation, and my oncologist was very concerned about my immune system and not being able to support a race like that. Mm-hmm. So the brunch was, I guess, TMHQ's way of still keeping me involved, and it was super emotional for me because it was the first time that a lot of people were finding out about my diagnosis, because I had kept it really close to my chest because it obviously hit me very hard. So being able to stand up there and share my journey with people that I absolutely love so much, and knowing that through the next year, these same people that were in front of me as I was sharing this news about my diagnosis and not being able to run would be the same people that would fly in throughout the year to be with me during chemo or drive me home from surgery, or anything like that. So it was really amazing to kind of tie my real life into my World's Toughest Mudder or Tough Mudder life, where the people have become one and the same.
Can you talk more about that, the things that people did to help you out?
Yeah. Almost every person that came to visit me during my stages of treatment or surgery were all people that I met through Tough Mudder. One of the people that I talk about all the time who absolutely holds a piece of my heart is Sean Corbell. So there's been a little disappointment swirling around right now because his event schedule isn't as robust as we would like it to be. But Sean actually showed up at my door without me knowing, showed up after I had to have a full hysterectomy, and was absolutely devastated. And I didn't know that I would emotionally recover from that. And then suddenly I heard a knock on the door, and my best friend came back, and Sean was behind her. And it's absolutely a moment that saved my life. It was a shift in everything that I needed to happen at that time, and it's all because of him. And it's the same with the community. Maddie Grigg came down when I was waiting to hear back from my diagnosis, and he held my hand when I got the call from my oncologist. And Team Four Eyes, I'm just so close to all of them, and Walter is the love of my life, which is just amazing. And there's everybody. There's Amelia and Tiffany, and just I could name a million people who went above and beyond, whether it was sending me cards or flying down to see me, and it was amazing. It makes me emotional. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't want to get too personal.
No, it's okay.
What did Sean say when he came to visit you?
He, over all the years I've known him, there's one thing he always says, and he walked in the room and he goes, "I love you big time and forever, Cassie Harris." And it's what he says after every conversation and after every time I see him since the very first moment we've met. And he just came and he crawled into bed next to me, and I was stuck between my best friend of 15 years on one side and Sean was on the other. And I knew at that moment that I would be able to make it through whatever happened because I would have people like him there.
When was this, when Sean came out?
That was in 2014.
So 2015, you weren't able to run. So were you a spectator? Were you able to watch the race at all that year?
Yes, yeah. So I spectated, and I got that wrong.
Oh, that's okay.
So last year I was pit crew. The year before I ran, and the year before that I was a spectator.
What was it like being a spectator after having run before?
Oh my gosh, it was the most fun. I got to work the start line with Sean for quite a few hours before the sandstorm hit. And it was amazing. I got to stand there and give people high fives and hugs and be motivation for them, which is a little different than when you're on the course because, yeah, you talk to each other and you encourage and you help one another, which is the best thing about World's Toughest Mudder. But you're still fighting so many demons to get yourself over that wall one more time or to jump off the cliff one more time, which in reality is going to be 4 more times. But as a spectator, all you get to do is lift people up the whole time. You just get to encourage them and love them and see what they need, whether it's a hug or to be taken to their pit crew because they're delirious. And it's such an amazing experience to see people conquer so much. It's amazing.
What was it like being pit crew for the love of your life?
It was probably the most amazing experience. Relationships are challenging in and of themselves. So seeing couples in general survive worlds where you have an athlete that, right? Seeing couples survive worlds is amazing because you have an athlete that is either hungry and grumpy or wants to quit, and they can be demanding and they can be out of their minds a little bit, and their pit crew has to kind of make sure that they're there for their every whim, and it can make or break you. I think I've seen happen a lot. So being able to go through something like that and come out the other side even stronger or feeling like you've accomplished something together, it's really amazing.
Would you recommend couples, like if half of the couple is a racer or a Tough Mudder, would you recommend they do that, or is it too high stakes?
I think that it depends on whether or not it's a shared interest. I think that's really important. And whether or not it's something that they want to do. I've seen my friend, I'm not going to say names, but he drug his wife out 2 years ago. and she didn't really want to go. And so it made the whole situation kind of tense. So I would say in those kind of instances, it shouldn't be forced. It should be a shared interest, a shared kind of motivation that you want them to do really well. Yeah, so I think it depends on your relationship and whether or not your significant other actually wants to be there.
What about this year? How are you doing health-wise right now? What are your plans for World's Toughest this November?
I am doing great. I've been in remission for 9 months now, and I actually just got the clear to start working out back to what I normally did about 4 weeks ago. So I've been doing that, and my strength is already coming back, and I'm super motivated, and I think it may be the last year that it's at Las Vegas. So I feel like I owe it to myself to go out there and finish. I haven't finished that course, so I really want to. So I'm excited. I'm staying healthy, and my oncology team, they're just absolutely phenomenal. And we share the same end goal, so which is really nice.
Do they ever tell you to take it easy, don't work out so hard, or are they saying just get after it?
They do. I've had the same oncologist team for the last 5 years now, so he knows how hard-headed I am, but I also know to trust him. So when he told me not to run in 2015, I knew he was serious. It wasn't you should maybe try to take it easy thing. It was absolutely don't do this for your health. Because he knows that it's a passion of mine. And it's when you go through so much health-wise, it starts to mess with your, I won't pussyfoot around it. I was diagnosed with depression. So this is my way of kind of dealing with that head on. People use it for, they move into athletics or OCR or working out to combat anxiety and depression and everything up to PTSD. So he understands that Tough Mudders and OCRs and the people that I get to see when I do them are kind of my natural antidepressant. So it works out well.
What's the best moment you've ever had on a Tough Mudder course or World's Toughest course?
Last year, seeing Walter finish was really big for me. And I think for a Tough Mudder course, last year at Arizona, which I ran into you in the parking lot, apparently, I was going through treatment and was unable to do the full. So everybody kind of rallied and decided to do the half the next day. So people flew in from all over the country to do this half with me because I couldn't do it by myself. And crossing the finish line that day, and I was given my 10 times headband. That my 10 times headband was given to me that day from Sean. It was actually technically my 11th event, but I hadn't seen him and I wanted him to be the one to do it. So it was a huge, huge event for me, being able to see everyone and having them come out to support me and getting my 10 times event headband. It was probably one of my best and favorite memories.
Tell me about that half. That must have almost felt like a victory lap to be able to do it with all your friends.
It was. I definitely cried at the end. And it was, I don't think I have ever had that much fun in my entire life. Just because everybody knew that I would be tired and that I would be suffering, but they also knew that I would push through it. But, I mean, half of the course we were singing and skipping, and I was being carried and being pulled over walls and pushed through mud, and it was amazing. These people, they not only help you through the obstacles on the course, but through the obstacles that we face in life every day, and I'm so grateful for them.
Do you have a home Tough Mudder course?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona is mine. I've only missed one, and that was the very first Tough Mudder that was out here, because I didn't know about it then. but I've been to every single Arizona Tough Mudder, and it's my backyard. And when everybody comes here, I kind of feel like they're coming home to mom. Like I get to see everybody and take care of them, and I do a big barbecue at my house the Saturdays after Tough Mudders, and it's just one big family reunion. So it always feels like home to me.
You're kind of hosting them. Everyone, welcome to my city.
Yeah, welcome to my city. And everybody does different things when for like the post Tough Mudder dinners, but I'm kind of old fashioned. I'm a Texas girl, so for me, bringing it home is having everybody there and grilling and talking and drinking and just having a good time.
What's your favorite obstacle at Tough Mudder?
Block Ness Monster is my absolute favorite obstacle. It's so much fun. I usually spend too much time in it trying to help people out than I should. But seeing people finally get the hang of it and how easy it can be and how you actually really have to work together, and it's not overly taxing. It's just a lot of fun, and everybody enjoys doing it. It's my favorite.
What's the hardest obstacle for you?
For me, it's definitely Funky Monkey, the Revolution, because it's all upper body strength, and I am a tiny little person. I weigh 104 pounds. And my upper body strength is definitely not where it needs to be because I've been sick off and on for so long. So that one's really hard to train up for. A lot of other things you can kind of muscle over, like the walls. And there's, braces you can put your feet on to make it up over the walls, or even, Everest. There's always people there to help you. But Funky Monkey, you are alone. Nobody can help you through it. You just either have to do it or you fall. So that one's always hard for me.
It's about the only obstacle, maybe King of the Swingers, where you are all by yourself.
Yeah, and King of Swingers is my second most feared obstacle. Not because it's difficult. There's not really anything difficult about it, but I am deathly afraid of heights, and it makes me cry almost every time I have to do it because I'm just so scared of heights, and I'm super short. I'm only 5'3". So half the time, depending on how they were feeling when they built the King of Swingers, the bar is so far out that no matter how hard I try to jump and reach it, I just can't because I'm so short.
Sometimes it's just out of reach, and sometimes you got to take a running jump at it. Yeah,
and I've tried, and sometimes in 2014, when they first introduced it, Arizona was one of the very first places they introduced it, and I could reach the bar then. And I remember that was the weekend that Will actually came out to Arizona, and I gave him pointers on how to hit the bell, and he would go and he'd do it, and he'd miss the bell, and he would come out and swim off to the side, and he would come and he would talk to me, and I would tell him what he was doing wrong, and he would go and do the exact same thing over again. And he did it about 4 times before I think he ended up saying that he was going to come try back later on that day.
Will Dean?
Yeah, Will Dean.
The Tough Mudder CEO.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun being able to kind of give him a hard time because he was having a hard time with his own obstacle.
Sure.
So it kind of was a little empowering to everybody that was standing around watching, those who knew that it was actually Will Dean. So that was a lot of fun.
Have you seen the new obstacles that they introduced last year at World's Toughest?
Yes. What do
you think of there's 5 new ones. Augustus Gloop, Stage 5 Clinger, Arctic Enema Rebirth, Kong, and Funky Monkey Revolution. What do you think about them?
So I like the mix of them. Augustus Gloop was a lot of fun to watch. I think that athletes kind of enjoyed what it was, because it's not all that difficult unless you're staring up at the water that's pouring down from you. But I noticed that a lot of the times it gave the athletes a break, and they were acting kind of silly through the windows, trying to make people laugh as they worked their way up the tubes. And it's a silly name, so you walk up to it and you just automatically have a good time with it. Stage 5 Klinger, I think that's the one with the wall that was jutted out.
Yeah.
And you had, that one was absolutely awful. I know that it started to become incredibly challenging for all of the athletes as the night went on, and you start to lose that upper body strength. But it also made people use their brains a little more than their muscles, because halfway through the night, people started to figure out a way to kind of cheat the system and use a buddy system to try to get up it instead of zigzagging your way up this odd inverted wall. So
it's probably the hardest upper body obstacle Tough Mudder has right now. That and Funky Monkey. Funky Monkey. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I don't look forward to it at all.
What about the new Arctic Enema?
I like the new Arctic Enema. I think that one challenges people mentally more than anything, because when you slide down into cold water, which takes your breath away as it is, and then you're forced to go under chain link and a wall when you're already short of breath. So people kind of have to get this come to Jesus moment where they realize that it's what they have to do to get out of this freezing cold water. And when people come out the other side, they look so proud of themselves for overcoming that fear of swimming under ice cold water. So I really enjoyed that one a lot.
It's a lot. It's very similar to how it has been in the past, but it's different in that it's very easy to get in. You slide down the black tube, but it's very hard to get out. You got to go under almost like a miniature Rain Man, and then under the wood. There's always a discussion: do you go head first under the wood? Do you go feet first under the? I like to go feet first. I've seen most of the people go head first under the wood.
I'm a head first.
You're head first.
Yeah, because I'm one of those people that gets scared, and so I want my head to emerge as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But they used to do the over-under back in 2012, so you would have to go over one of the walls and then under the other one. And I just remember people always hitting their heads all the time. So they got rid of that last year, and you just had to climb over a couple walls. But now they've brought the under back, so I'm interested to see how that continues to evolve.
Do you have an obstacle that you dread seeing on course?
Like I said, Funky Monkey, that one always gives me anxiety because I'm afraid of falling. But not really. EST, man. Like the classic EST, anything with electricity. What was the one that you used to have to climb? You used to have to low crawl through?
Oh, Electric Eel.
Electric Eel. That one was the worst. I do not miss it. I hope that I never see it ever again. I actually got shocked in the eye in Tri-State on that one. But the electric ones, I don't like it. In Arizona in 2012, I don't know what they did, but they definitely messed up some of the voltage. And they had it so that they put walls in that were staggered. So you had to run through the water around the walls while you were being electrocuted. And towards the end, I actually blacked out. And I woke up to someone pulling me out of the water on EST.
Yeah, I hate EST so much.
Oh, it's the worst. I hate it so much. I can't believe it's a penalty for some of the obstacles at Toughest.
I was going to say, this last week at Toughest, I failed Kong going through, and the penalty for failing Kong is going through EST.
It's awful. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I had a wetsuit on and a hood and gloves, so as far as like my trips through EST, it was probably my best one, but still, it's always terrible.
It is, and it's just terrifying. It doesn't get any easier no matter how many times you've done it.
How many Tough Mudders have you done, Cassie?
I've done 14. And Saturday will be my 15th.
Saturday this weekend in Arizona. Hey, before we talk about Arizona specifically, what do you say to somebody who's nervous about signing up for Tough Mudder or maybe for World's Toughest Mudder?
You know what? I actually got 14 people who have never done a Tough Mudder to sign up for Arizona this year, so I'm really proud of myself. But when I talk to them, I think that the excitement just kind of exudes from my body, and they see that it just is, to me, the most exciting and fun thing. And you get to meet incredible people, and you get to challenge yourself and do something that you've never done before. Like Sean said, when is the last time you've done something for the first time? So I talk to them about it, and then I always pull up a video on my phone that shows like a recap of one of the really fun events, and just go, see, don't you want this? The Rise of the Sufferfest does a really good job of kind of talking about how we all kind of crave that social media personality that draws it in. So for me, I kind of use that to my advantage and say, don't you want pictures like this? Isn't this a cool thing that you might want to try? That lures them in, and then they get sucked in by the people. And then the social media stuff doesn't matter anymore. So that's kind of how I trick people into doing it when they're on the fence.
Yeah, you're guaranteed 1 or 2 great profile pictures. Guaranteed.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love that?
Let's talk about Arizona. This weekend is Tough Mudder, Arizona, in your backyard.
Yes.
You're pretty familiar with the course?
I am. I actually really love what they did with it this year.
So they're doing the Tough Mudder half and the Tough Mudder full. The Tough Mudder half is roughly the first half of the Tough Mudder course, which is kind of the way they've been doing it recently. The course starts off with a mile-plus run. No obstacles, just running.
Yes.
The reason they do that, this is a pretty flat, fast course, isn't it?
It is. It's very flat. We have no mountains to be seen aside from the Superstition Mountains, which is absolutely beautiful. But it's absolutely flat. It's on a raceway that they used to do testing for cars. So not too much exciting there as far as elevation.
I remember last year, some people were talking about trying to do 3 laps on Saturday, which to me was unheard of. My home course is in California, where they just had Toughest Mudder West, and I don't think anyone's ever done 3 laps there in one day.
No, the elevation is just insane.
But guys were, and I don't know, I'm not sure if anyone made it, but I'm sure guys are going to try it this weekend also, trying to do 30 miles in one morning.
I think PJ did. He did 3 Saturday last year. PJ Catalano.
The first obstacle is going to be Kiss of Mud 2.0, under the barbed wire.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Kiss of Mud?
I like Kiss of Mud. I think it's a good way to kind of ease everybody into getting dirty. Honestly, it's a low crawl through mud, and it kind of loosens people up, and everybody laughs and has a great time, and they pull each other through and give each other high fives at the end. I think it's a really good way to get the race started.
And you'll probably see a photographer there, so...
Yes, so make sure you give a thumbs up and smile.
The second obstacle will be Pitfall.
This one is one that I love, just because it catches so many people off guard. What you're doing is you're walking into a giant pit, but what they've done is dug holes, random holes, in this big mud pit. So you'll be walking, and suddenly you'll just sink down 2 feet. And everybody, again, you're laughing, you're grabbing on to the people around you, then you get out, you exchange names, and now you have more friends to join you on the rest of your run. So it's a good one.
After Pitfall is Devil's Beard.
Devil's Beard is awful. It's awful at Worlds, and it's awful at Arizona. It's just a really heavy, long, thick cargo net that you have to try to muscle your way through. Never enjoyed it, but again, it's another one of those kind of team building obstacles where you kind of have to talk to each other so that you're not crushing people on the other end while you're trying to make it through. So again, it's a great way to get to know your neighbors.
It's a good obstacle that if you can go through with other people, that makes it a lot easier.
It makes it, it's beneficial, so you're not trying to pick it up and move through it on your own.
After Devil's Beard is the 2-mile mark, and then the next obstacle will be Berlin Walls.
Yeah, the Berlin Walls. I've heard that they may have put a twist on the Berlin Walls. I guess we're going to have to see come Arizona, but these are your standard, I think they're 8-foot walls that you use teamwork to push yourself up and over. They're some of my favorite simple obstacles because a lot of people have such a fear of climbing up a wall because it's high up. So seeing them pull themselves up and get over on the other side, it's always awesome to see.
After the Berlin Walls is skid marked.
I think this is the one where you slide down a hill.
Skid marked is actually, it's a wall that's leaning towards you at like a 45-degree angle.
Oh, yes.
And then it'll have tires on the backside. It's usually sponsored by Toyo Tires, I think, this year.
Oh, Toyo Tires. Yeah, that one, it's like a really mellow version of Stage 5 Klinger, trying to make it up that. You definitely have to use teamwork. For me, the easiest way for me to get up that one last year was to use the support beams on the sides and then kind of having someone push you up and swing your leg over and make it over to the other side.
Right after skid mark, you'll hit the 3-mile mark, and then the next obstacle will be hero carry.
The hero carry. This is one where you have to have a buddy, and you can either do an actual buddy carry, or you can just hop on someone's back and you go a little ways and then you switch sides. There's always usually a camera there too, so make it fun and interesting.
My best pictures at Tough Mudder have come at hero carry.
Yeah.
No obstacles, no mud, just carrying a friend of yours or your sister or your partner or whoever.
Last year, Carlo, I was on Carlo's shoulders for that one, and we were just laughing the whole time. It's so much fun.
Next obstacle, pretty quick after hero carry, is balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall. This one is, I think it has a rope on a wall. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you grab onto a rope and climb up over a wall and try not to slam yourself into it. Pretty much. It's
pretty simple. There's two schools of thought. You can lean back against the rope and try to pull yourself up, or you can try and stay close to the wall. And I don't know if there's a right answer, but
I don't know. It gets pretty slippery, so just do what you can.
That's true. The next obstacle after balls to the wall is Mud Mile 2.0.
Yeah, that's just a mud mile. I don't know what the 2.0 is.
You know what they've done? They've made it way deeper now. Each trench is like 6 feet deep. Like you cannot get out by yourself once you're inside.
I think it was I remember it being pretty rough last year in Arizona, with the walls, the little trenches that you have to climb up and over being a little more difficult to get up. And then last year they made it really interesting because they followed the mud mile with pyramid scheme. So you were super muddy and wet and then trying to make it up pyramid scheme. It was really fun and super challenging.
That's how they get you.
Yep.
So after you're all muddy from Mud Mile, the next obstacle is the Block Ness Monster.
Yeah, so you get to get all muddy and then go jump in the water. The Block Ness Monster is my favorite obstacle, like I said before. It's really fun to watch people try to figure it out because what will happen is you'll start to make your way over the block as it starts to turn. And then instead of people turning around and still holding on to the block and continuing the movement of making it spin, they just kind of slide off the other side. And so people are kind of stranded. And once you start to see the light bulbs come on and people communicate more with absolute strangers, it starts to flow like a machine. And it's a very well-oiled machine until somebody comes along and messes it up and you have to kind of relearn it all over again. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Block Ness Monster is one of the few obstacles that requires teamwork. Like, very few people can get over it by themselves.
Yeah, very few can. The people who brag about being able to, don't do that. Enjoy the teamwork and camaraderie of that experience and making sure that other people who maybe have never had a Tough Mudder before get to experience it the way that they should.
It's way more fun pushing people over and pulling people behind you. And
it is. It's a blast.
After Block Ness Monster is Quagmire.
I don't know what this one is.
Quagmire is basically they dig a hole, and it's probably 30 or 40 feet long, and you're walking in mud, and you get stuck in the mud as you're walking, and then you got to climb out of the hole at the end.
Gotcha.
It's a pretty...
That's probably why I didn't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple obstacle, but it's easy to make, and it gets you muddy.
Yeah, right before Pyramid Scheme.
So now that your feet and legs are all muddy, you come up to Pyramid Scheme.
Pyramid Scheme. This is another one that I absolutely love because it takes a little innovation, and again, it absolutely takes teamwork. You cannot complete this obstacle without the people around you. You end up just kind of climbing on top of one another to form a chain and then pulling people up from your team. And it's just so much fun. And watching people try to figure it out and accomplish it and being muddy and sliding down and holding on for dear life. It's a lot of fun.
So it's a sloped wall, maybe, I don't know, about a 45-degree angle slope. And it's white plastic that's real slippery, so you can't walk up it by yourself. You can't even run up it because they put a little mud trench in front of it, so there's no way to actually run up this wall. So you have to get a team together and, like you were saying, make a chain. Do you have any advice for how to make that chain, or for strategy for people if it's their first time?
Yeah. So usually by the time you get there, there's already people kind of working the chain and trying to figure it out. But if you're the first one starting, it's easier to put your stronger people, like your two stronger people, at the bottom to begin with. And then kind of you crawl over those people and try to reach up to the top as high as you can. And they'll push your feet until you can reach the top. And that's kind of how you form your human chain. I always tell people, if they've ever seen the movie Ants, how they form that chain with the ball at the end. It's kind of that, where you just have to make it happen, whether it's you throwing someone towards the top who's going to hold on and pull all you guys up, or slowly climb on top of each other like your cheerleaders.
After Pyramid Scheme is Ladder to Hell.
Ladder to Hell.
Ladder to Hell is about 20 feet tall, and it's a ladder that you climb up, and then you have to climb back down on the other side, made out of 2x8. The steps are made out of 2x8s, and they're about 3 feet apart, so maybe 2.5 feet apart. So it's just far enough so that as your legs are reaching to climb up, they want to start cramping up.
Yeah, it's terrifying for me. It's another one of those where I have to overcome my fear of heights, but also I'm super short. So they put the spacing in there. It's, like you said, 2.5 or 3 feet. So it gets pretty scary for us short people. We're literally having to pull ourselves up with just our upper body strength because our feet barely reach the ring we're on while reaching up for the new one. So that one's challenging for sure. Someone
I run with a lot, kind of like you, does not like the heights, and that's one of the hardest obstacles for her.
Yeah.
And so even if you're thinking about, I'm not really strong, I'm not going to be able to help somebody at Tough Mudder, if you don't have a problem with heights, you will be able to help people at Ladder to Hell, at Berlin Walls, at Skidmark. Ladder to Hell is very scary for some people, and some people have no problem with it at all. But some people dread that, like I dread, or you dread electroshock therapy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one that I dread, just because it is so it's super high up there, and with the rings being so far apart, it's a challenging experience, absolutely.
After Ladder to Hell is Everest 2.0, which is also the last obstacle for Tough Mudder half. Everest,
whenever I finish the races, I always go back to Everest because there's something so magical about it. Especially for people who it's their very first Tough Mudder. Everest 2.0, they've made it a little more interesting by curving off. So Everest is a kind of ramp that you have to run up it and then grab the top and pull yourself over. 2.0, they've taken that squared off edge that you could easily grab onto and made it round. So now it's even more difficult to do by yourself, which I kind of really love because I think the best thing about Tough Mudder is the fact that everybody is kind of there to help each other. So on 2.0, you run up this ramp, and there are people at the top. They're pretty much waiting to catch you. And you're playing this game of faith with complete strangers. It's either they catch you or you slide back down. The thing that I can recommend for this is to not let your fear keep you from trying it, because I see that a lot where people are so afraid of falling that they don't even try it. When in reality, falling and sliding back down it isn't as scary as they think. And to just not stop running. You just hit the platform and keep running until you feel hands at the top.
Even after I've done, I don't know how many times I've done Everest, but it's just an amazing feeling where these people are hanging off the edge with their hands dangling there waiting for you. And you've never seen these people before in your life. And you're running up there, and they're going to catch you and pull you up.
And they are going to catch you, and that's the thing. I've never had anyone I've never seen people not be caught when they were giving it their all, where they ran the whole time and they reached and they fought for making it to the top. Because if they can see, that you're giving it your all and you made it to the top, they're going to pull you over. That's just how it works.
And then after you get up, you get to do the same thing. You can tap somebody on the shoulder, say, all right, I got it. You can help people up behind you.
Absolutely.
After Everest 2.0 is 6 feet under.
6 feet under, they pretty much just dug a really deep hole, filled it with water, and you slide down it and wade through this hole of muddy water, and then you have to use teamwork to climb back up the other side. My favorite thing about this obstacle last year is the Acunas are a couple that runs all of these, and I had always looked up for them for so long. And on 6 feet under last year, I was helping a guy up and out of it, and he turns around and he goes, "Oh, hey, thanks, Cassie." And he had his face painted, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Eric." And then his wife came up and she was there, and I got to meet them for the first time. And the only reason I got to meet them was because I was helping them get out of this 6-foot muddy wall of a mess. So that was a really cool experience for me last year, and we've been super close ever since.
After 6 feet under is another long run, and then we do Quagmire again.
Woo! So there's Quagmire.
After their second turn at Quagmire is Black Hole / Birth Canal.
Yeah, this one is not really challenging. You just kind of have to, what it is it's a low crawl, but you have to crawl underneath plastic that has been filled with water. So it's almost like you're crawling underneath a waterbed. So you have that pressure of the water on your back, and it's sloshing around and moving as you low crawl through this, I don't know, maybe 15 feet tunnel. And you make it out the other side, and it gives birth to you.
That's exactly it. Black Hole is the Legionnaire version of that, and the only difference is that it has black plastic tarps on the side and at the front and back. But even then, there's little cracks of sunlight getting through, so it's not as scary as it could be.
Yeah, no, not at all.
After Black Hole is another long run, and then Stage 5 Clinger / the Reach Around.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on Stage 5 Clinger. It's the one I hate the most. It's a really difficult obstacle / odd wall that is kind of shaped like an upside down L, and you have to work your way up and over it.
And you can have people help you on the bottom, and people can stand on top and kind of help you get up the top. So it's intimidating and it's hard, but it's not impossible.
And it's where you really get to see some Mutter innovation, which I like a lot.
Then the next obstacle is Arctic Enema, the Rebirth.
Yeah, so we touched on this one too. It's where you slide down tubes into a big vat of iced water. You reach that, and then they have a chain link fence that is laid down on top of the water that you have to swim underneath and then swim under a wall at the end of that. So it's a lot of getting your head under ice cold water and kind of facing that fear.
My favorite thing about Arctic Enema is when guys play paper, rock, scissors to get out.
to get out. Yep.
You go through the obstacle, but before you jump out, you have to do paper, rock, scissors with the guy you went through with, and the winner gets to get out of the obstacle. The loser has to play paper, rock, scissors with the next person coming through. And a lot of times, the next person has no idea what you're talking about. They just want to get out of the obstacle. So you have to stay in there until you can find someone to play with that you can beat.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I really enjoy that. That's something that we do a lot of times at the half, if they have it on the course, because it's just a fun course to run.
After Arctic Enema is Shawshanked. Shawshanked is you crawl up a 45-degree angle through the black tubes, and there's a rope inside it, and so you can kind of pull yourself up. And then when you get to the top of the tube, you're maybe 10 feet above ground level, but underneath you is water. And you can't, you're not supposed to be able to get yourself out of the tube and drop down feet first. Really, you just what they want you to do is kind of back your way out and plop into the water behind you.
Yeah, I remember that one from last year. I just didn't know what it was called, so there we go.
There's no real strategy to it. You just kind of pull yourself up the tube, and if you're smaller, like Cassie, you'd probably be able to kind of, when you get to the top of the tube, wiggle your way around and jump in feet first. I can't do that. I just kind of flop on backwards and orient myself and get out of the water. So
they had at World's Toughest Mudder in 2015, they had Shawshanked, only it didn't have the last part where you flop out. You pulled yourself up the tubes. And I remember Pac and I hit that obstacle at the very same time. And he was obviously racing for his life at the time. But we hit it, and I looked over at him, and I just thought in my head, I am going to beat you up this tube. I am going to beat you up this tube. And so in my head, I raced him, and he barely beat me up that tube, but it's one of my favorite my very own internal memories that I have from World's Toughest Mudder was almost me beating Pac.
John Young Pac, who won the first two World's Toughest Mudders.
Yes, yeah, almost beating him up that, and him kind of just laughing at me. And it was a lot of fun.
Did he know you were racing him?
Yeah, he knew. We made eye contact before he started to crawl up it, so.
That's fun. After Shawshanked is Augustus Gloop / Snot Rocket.
Yeah, I don't know what Snot Rocket is. I'm sure they just kind of changed it up a little bit. But Augustus Gloop, there are vertical tubes with water, ice cold water spraying down into them. And you have to just shimmy your way up this tube like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where the kid gets sucked up the tube, which is where they got the name. So that's that. You just kind of shimmy your way up it and come out the other side. Try not to drown in the water that's being sprayed on your face.
The Legionnaire version, Snot Rocket, has a barrel that you have to go completely submerge yourself under before you can get into that tube. And then it has a short little cage crawl, like Rain Man, to get into the black tube before you can go up.
Ooh, that's fun.
The next obstacle after Snot Rocket and Augustus Gloop is Funky Monkey, the Revolution.
Funky Monkey, the Revolution. This is the most challenging obstacle for me. Like I said earlier, upper body strength is not one of my strengths. So Funky Monkey there is an inclined monkey bar, which you work your way up, and then you'll come to these rotating wheels, or I don't know. Yeah, wheels. So you have to transition from the monkey bars to these wheels that you grab onto, and they turn. And there's 3 or 4 of those in a row that you work your way back down on. Which the wheel part is always fun because you're going downhill, but the climbing up the monkey bars to get there is challenging.
Funky Monkey, the Revolution, could be at home on Ninja Warrior easily.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty sure they stole it from American Ninja Warrior.
After Funky Monkey, you come to the last obstacle, Electroshock Therapy, if it's your first time, and Kong, if you were a Legionnaire.
Thank God I am a Legionnaire, because I'm going to try to avoid any electricity. But Kong they are rings, like on a playground, but I think they're suspended at about 20 feet in the air, I think. And you just swing across this big gap opening that's 20 feet in the air until you get to the other side and hope that you don't fall onto the airbags.
Kong takes some grip strength, but not.
Yes.
It's more about timing. It's just about being smooth and methodical, and you only have to change your grip 3 or 4 times, and you're through it.
Yep, and it's really all about that forward momentum. Just keep using it.
What about electroshock? Do you have any strategies for that?
Don't cry. No. Electroshock. For me, my main thing is always just focusing on my footing. A lot of people just put their heads down and cover their head, and they start taking off, and then they trip over everything because they're not really paying attention to where their feet go. Keep moving, watch where you're going, and just be super stoked once you make it through the other side.
Yeah, sometimes they have hay bales, rows of hay bales you have to climb over.
Yes,
So
they always have hay bales in Arizona.
Keep your knees high so you don't trip over those.
Yep.
Well, cool. Cassie, any last-minute thoughts on the course?
No, I'm actually really excited for it this year. They've done a really good job of just making Arizona better and better every year, and I get to see a lot of amazing people, so I'm so excited.
Are you going to have your World's Toughest bib on?
I don't usually wear my World's Toughest bib.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. It is awesome. Yeah, I'll probably bring it. I always wear at least a couple of my headbands and stuff.
Cool. Cassie, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, it was so awesome to be on here, and I love what you're doing and kind of opening the world of Tough Mudder to people who may not know what it's about. So keep up the great work. I love listening to your podcasts.
Thanks, Cassie. You're very kind.
You're welcome.
I'll see you this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely will.
Special thanks to Cassie Harris for appearing in this episode. Thanks a lot, Cassie. Well done. That's our second episode of the week. Hey, if you're going to Phoenix this weekend, do me a favor. Share this episode with a friend, then leave a review on iTunes. Come up to me in Phoenix and let me know, and I'll give you something. A high five. Thanks a lot, guys.